Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Sharks pull out a much-needed win against the Los Angeles Kings, 4-3 in overtime. Erik Karlsson immediately impacting the game, and of course, trade value uppage for Tomas Hertl himself. All that and more after this. But first, if you want to be a part of the show and Teal Together and interact with us, come check us out on all the social media outlets that we've got. We've got the Twitter, we've got the Instagram, Facebook, of course, the YouTube chat, SoundCloud, Reddit, and of course, all the shenanigans that go down in the Discord. But if you want to check all of that out and more, you can always check everything out at tealtownusa.com. I am pleased to be joined by Mr. Ian Reed. Ian, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I mean, when the Sharks do good, it's good. Good
right? I mean, is it that simple?
I think so. I mean, look, I understand that there is a certain portion of this fan base that is just over this shit and, would just like them to lose out the rest of the way. But I thought it was nice that they stuck with it and kind of grinded out a win tonight. It's like I don't know, like I get it, right? Like I understand, like obviously, like you want big high draft picks, right? And that's great on the day of the draft. But you still have to get there, and the getting there is not fun. Like there's a lot of pain along the way. So I understand how people are like, they won. What the fuck? Now they win, when nothing matters anymore. But I mean, like, I'm not going to get mad when they win.
Yeah, and I mean, is it as simple as, just an Erik Karlsson, away from the team just starting to be good all of a sudden? I mean, he's definitely an impact player, but
I think,
is he that dramatic? Is it that dramatic of an effect for you?
I mean, if you watch tonight's game and watch the last, I don't know how many he was out, 15 or whatever he missed. How many did he miss? I don't remember.
15.
Yep. 15. Like it was night and day. Like with Erik Karlsson in the lineup, the Sharks were able to possess the puck more, and they were able to not just dump and chase. They were actually able to carry the puck into the offensive zone and set up and then apply some offensive pressure, where a lot of their plays without Carlson in the lineup have been just one and done plays. A lot of shots on goal are just dump ins that happen to hit the goalie. So, I mean, yeah, it's a night and day thing. Now, does Erik Karlsson make this team good enough to make the playoffs? No, I don't think so. Like, I think this team still has some flaws, but anyone who thinks that Erik Karlsson being out of the lineup is a net positive for this team is an idiot.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think. I guess I wasn't bringing up the question as from a perspective of Karlsson is not important to the team, but I mean, just is he that integral of a piece? And the reason why I bring it up that way is because if the success of the team hinges so much upon this one player, I mean, we've got to start worrying about the player's long-term health, because it seems season after season it's something else. And well, I don't know if it's away conditions.
And that's the caveat, right? Like, obviously, when he's in the lineup, like he's great. I mean, he's still like he's an elite defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
He's an elite, like he is an elite player who elevates the game of those around him. Now, with him not in the lineup, the Sharks did a lot of really dumb things, because Bob Boughner, for whatever reason, would rather dress guys from the Guy Factory than guys that might be here when this is all said and done. Like, if you think Jacob Magna and Nick Meloche are NHL defensemen on any other team, I've got a bridge I could sell you. It's over in Manhattan.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and I think you're right. And I think that, getting a player like Carlson back just filters, throughout the rest of the team. That being said, we now have to talk about another injury again, with that would being Jacob Middleton, and where the team will kind of start to shuffle again. But I digress. We need to get to a game tonight. The Sharks again prevail in the overtime, 4-3. We open up the scoring with Brent Burns, his 6th on the season. Beautiful setup by Erik Karlsson. 2 minutes 39 seconds into the first period on the power play, no less. The I guess much maligned combination of Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson pairing up on the power play this evening netted benefits for the Sharks. Ian, what did you see on this play, and how did these two hook up for this goal when it seems like we've tried to shoehorn this pair together for such a long time?
I think it's one of those things where it's like, a broken watch is still right twice a day.
Okay.
Like the problem with Brent Burns, doesn't matter what unit Brent Burns is on, it's always give the puck to Burns and let Burns rip it and then hope that someone can either tip it or do a deflection. I think that's why it's not a great combination, because it doesn't really, if everything has to go through Burns, like, you're just, why have Carlson out there? Right. And I think that still holds true. But again, just because that's the way it happens doesn't mean, it's not going to work every once in a while. I think that's what it is. I think, like, is that something that you want to do, going forward? Are the results going to be better? History would say no, but it worked tonight, so great.
Yeah. And we talk about, kind of the ebbs and flows, and how each of the players kind of affect the way in which the game goes along. And unfortunately, the Sharks give up that critical momentum with Philip Deneau scoring his 17th on the season. But I think more concerningly was at Athanasiou's follow-up goal 8 seconds later. And I don't know what it seems to be, Ian, right now, but it seems like it's Murphy's Law with this team. Whatever can go wrong does go wrong. And so far as, if they lose their lead, they end up looking, up at the opposing team. It's not just it's a tie, it's a tie goal, and then the Sharks don't inevitably give up the next one. It just seems like, when it rains, it pours for this team, both positive and negative.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make everyone angry here, but I will get you back by the end of the show. I mean, that second goal, that's not a goal an NHL goalie can let in. But thankfully, Sawchenko isn't an NHL goalie. And I know everyone's gonna get really mad at that, but it's true. Like, it doesn't change anything. We've explained the Sawchenko thing 100 times. If you think I'm wrong, I mean, you're entitled to think I'm wrong, but I'm not.
I hope he, in all honesty, right, because we're fans of the team. We hope that he proves us wrong and he bucks the trend and he becomes the next Tim Thomas. Is it likely? No. Is it possible? No. Maybe. It's. I mean, it's an astronomical type thing, but you know what I mean. If it happens, if you see the shooting star, that's great. But if not, it's no big deal. He's not
right. It's
the heir apparent,
right? Like, I'm not going to spend the show. Like, this isn't going to be a show where I beat up on Sawchenko. Those weren't good goals. I don't think any of the goals he let in tonight were particularly good. The ones to let in. I don't think those are goals that NHL goalies regularly allow. But to his credit, he didn't completely fall apart. Yeah, he had a bad hiccup that probably, where the Sharks, if not for those, I mean, those goals were pretty bad. But and the Sharks went into the period down a goal because of them, right?
But I do want to give Sawchenko some props though, because at the end of
that's where I was going.
Yeah, the end of that first period, there was quite a bit of an onslaught,
and by the end of the game, like, Sawchenko got shelled tonight, man. And so I'm not gonna beat up on him, right? Like, this is not me beating up on him. I'm calling the goals are what they are, right? We all saw them. If you think those are goals an NHL goalie were going to give up, then great. I don't think so, and it's fine, because again, Sawchenko is not the answer here.
Big Bird, quickly, just want to quickly go over to the chat and something Big Bird is saying, give the kid a break. He isn't playing bad. And agreed. I think overall the stats will say that he did not play bad.
Fine. Like,
I think what's concerning is the goals back to back within 8 seconds. That's the red flag that we see.
Here's the problem, right? But it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not mad. Like, again, this... Whatever. If you think Sawchenko is the goalie of the future, then why was he the guy that sat on the taxi squad while the Melnichuks and the Koznachs played? Right? Like, he's played, like, for what he's had to do, he's fine. He's the third string guy this season, right? So, like, I'm not expecting, like, this isn't Martin Jones making, $6 million and sucking ass. This is a guy who's on an NHL deal making $700K. Yeah, so whatever. He let in some bad goals. Big deal. Like, he still came back and he was really good to finish the game. He didn't fall apart. He composed himself. Like, the thing that I said about Sawchenko all season is he's done what they've asked him to do.
Oh, and he's a hell of a battler. I mean, I think that's the biggest plus that I can give to him, is that he's a hell of a battler, and like we had said, in that end of that first period, he really did hold down the fort, and I think he did do an awesome job. I think
given what he's been expected to do, he's done great, right? For being, like, for what he is, he's doing fine. Like, I'm not mad at Sawchenko. I didn't like those goals. You guys come here because you want us to break down the game. Well, that's my breakdown. Shitty goals. I'm sorry. Like,
let's go.
If you want something else, listen to Curtis Brown, who can tell you that, sometimes goalies win games that are 6-5, so it's okay. It doesn't matter. Like, you're right. It doesn't. They won tonight. Let's
go quickly then into the second period, because I think we can go all night about goaltending, and it's it's definitely
I'm fighting the chat over. We're fighting. I feel like we're fighting over, like, we're all making the same points, but we're saying them differently.
Okay,
like,
but
I do
want to
did good for what, like, after those bad goals, he came back and he battled and he allowed the Sharks to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Is he the goalie of the future? No, but that's fine. No one's expecting him to be that.
In the second period, the Sharks would give up another shorthanded goal, and something that's kind of concerning. I mean, it's the sixth shorty that the team has given up. You've got Trevor Moore, his 11th on the season. 2-on-1 going the other way. Not really much Sawchenko could do there. Again, it's the power play giveth, the power play taketh away, because Nick Bonino would then score his 7th on the season on the power play. Dahlin and Middleton getting the assist, and that was on the same power play just at the end of it. So this power play is such a head scratcher because it's so hot and cold. But I think the thing that worries me most is just that it can't. It doesn't seem to be responsible in its handling of the puck, Ian, and that concerns me. And I think it's something that we've seen all year, and I think we've seen this now for multiple years. Back to back. What do you occur this to, and why do you think that this power play continually gets victimized with the shorties?
Because I feel like this power play is like the one place where they're allowed to kind of stretch their legs a little bit. Okay. Like, a lot of the Sharks have played some really boring hockey of late, right? A lot of dump and chase. On the power play, they actually try to make plays. Now, the the problem with making plays is sometimes they go the other way. And because of who you generally ice on the power play, they're not getting back in time. I just think it's a situation of these guys haven't been able to, really push play. The Sharks, if you watch this team for the past 15 games, pushing play is not something they've done a whole lot of. They did a lot more of it this game. And I just think that, unfortunately, when you try to open things up a little bit and you try to make plays to get into the zone and actually get some offensive pressure, like sometimes it's going to go the other way. And obviously, it's a systems thing, mostly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it tends to, for me, I think it tends to be leaning a little bit more towards personnel. I think that if you have a Brent Burns or an Erik Karlsson, they tend to take a lot of risks on that blue line, and it's very high risk, high reward that they play back there. It's cowboy defense, and I think, it's it definitely shows. And I think, again, I don't know if it's something that you can weed out by adding a different kind of forward on the other side of the point, or if it's maybe going more towards a traditional defenseman, maybe adding a person, when he gets back.
I think it's X's and O's. I just think it's the way I think it's an X's and O's thing. I think it's just the way that they try to push play, and it's obviously like other teams have found a weakness, and Bugner hasn't adjusted.
Yeah. Well, the Sharks would be, again, going into the third period down a goal. However, a guy that we mentioned a little bit before, Erik Karlsson, making a great breakout pass, and Alexander Barabanov scoring a tip-in goal, his 9th on the season. Hertl also picking up an assist there. And again, that's why I brought up, is Erik Karlsson that essential to this team scoring, because quite honestly, it does seem to think, it does, the stats bear out the fact that he is a large part of the offense, and a large part of the offense.
Well, I think here's the other thing too, right? Like, when with the Sharks, especially with the way they've been, they're an easier team to defend. The more guys go out with injury, the more impact players go out with injury, the easier you become to defend, because you can zero in on certain players and you can cheat and you can double team certain guys, right? So when you put an Erik Karlsson back into the lineup or back onto the power play or whatever, like, that is a guy who you have to respect. You can't cheat on, you know what I mean? You can't cheat to another guy. You can't just double team Couture or, double team Brent Burns. Like, you have to respect pretty much everybody on that unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what happens, right? I mean, I think that's a bigger thing, because obviously, and again, that's another reason why you would want Erik Karlsson and Brent Burns on the same power play, even though, historically it hasn't been that great. It hasn't really translated a lot. But who's going to take the puck up the ice? Well, if it's just Brent Burns on the ice, it's Brent Burns. Maybe it's, you know what I mean? Or Erik Karlsson. And then you just kind of, it's a lot easier to cut off those plays when you know who's quarterbacking it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely becomes a very much a one-trick pony, right? If either one of those guys goes out, and dare say it, those two, I think, are the most dynamic offensive pieces you have from the blue line, and it does make sense that their effectiveness as a unit, significantly degrades when either one of those goes out. So, go ahead.
Again, you take you take elite players out of the lineup. The more elite players you take out, the more easier you are to defend.
Yeah. The team would hold up very stout with a very big penalty kill at the end of the third period. The teams would trade chances going into the very end of the third.
Yeah, and again,
very
Sawchenko,
spirited.
to his credit, after giving up some bad goals, was really good, kept them in it. And again, this wasn't beating up on Sawchenko night. He played a good game, and given what he is, he played a great game.
Yeah. And then in overtime, the Sharks would prevail with Tomas Hertl on a wraparound. Finally, he gets one of those wraparounds to go in. Of course, it does help that Jonathan Quick was a little out of the net, but his 23rd on the season with Barabanov and Burns with the assists. And Tomas Hertl having a 2-point night. You had Erik Karlsson with a 2-point night. Brent Burns with a 2-point night. The big boys coming out to play, and good to see this from this team. It is a little bittersweet that you give up the loser point in overtime to LA.
Are we gonna pass LA in the standings? Who gives a shit at this point?
Exactly. But I think to me this had a good. This had kind of a reminiscent vibe of Kings Sharks games of past, and
yeah, it was a good game. Like I think it was a good game. I think these games always seem to be fun. Like regardless of where these teams are in the standings, like these teams always play each other hard. I mean, I'd be more, again, like I thought Jonathan Quick was pretty subpar tonight. And, but that's the difference. Like Jonathan Quick's a goalie that makes a crap ton of money. Like it's a lot easier to be critical of a guy like that. You know what I mean? And if I'm a Kings fan, I look at that game and I'm pretty pissed at Jonathan Quick right now.
Yeah, and I had shameless plug for the Hockey Royalty podcast. That was what I was on a couple of days ago. And we were just talking a little bit about where the Kings are at in their trajectory and where the Sharks are at, and I had said this, in the 3 upcoming games that the Sharks and the Kings have, the Kings need to have at least 5 points out of a possible 6, and this is not setting up for a good margin, and of course this is off of the previous game. That was the 5-goal Timo Meier game. So it's a little interesting to see the Sharks having some ownership against the Kings.
I think for the Kings, though, and I know I'm going to make everyone angry because I'm going to talk about the other team for a second, but I think for the Kings, like this is found money, isn't it?
Agreed. I forecast this team being a year early, right? I think that I don't expect things out of this team until next year. For me.
Yeah, like I mean, if this team makes up, doesn't matter what they do in the playoffs, like just making it's found money for them. I don't look at this team and say, oh, they're ready to contend, but I mean they've got pieces coming. They've still got guys that haven't even jumped through yet that I think are going to be impact players. Like obviously you got to ride out a couple more contracts. I think I like Jonathan Quick for sure, but like for them, this is found money. They I don't think anyone had expected them to be this good. Like I thought they would probably bounce back, but second in the Pacific, nope, didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've got some great comments coming in from the team right now. Thank you, AJ, manning the Zoom meeting. He looked good, smooth. It was nice to have EK back. I had a little bit of a stomach bug, but I'm feeling better now. This is all Middleton. I owe the Kings a lot. I was pretty raw, and they really helped me, and I took a lot of what I learned to San Jose. This is all Middleton. Mm-hmm. And then this is Middleton on. I got a few laps in during the TV timeout. I'm going to ice the shit out of this after this on his ankle. And AJ saw it coming. Thank you, AJ. No, it was good to see Middleton, kind of try it out and stuff. But again, oh, poor dude. I mean, it's just one thing after another with him, and he just plays the game really hard. But that's a lot of mileage piling up for Jake Middleton. And interesting because he's starting to be subject to some rumors and a guy that maybe a team like the Bruins might want to take a flyer on. I mean, had you heard any about that, Ian? And what do you think on stock rising, so to speak, on some of the players?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, again, you look at when you examine the price tag, I think Jake Middleton's really good for what he does and for what he's paid. I could, he would be a good depth defenseman on any playoff team. I think, like a guy you can definitely rotate in another lineup. Is he an every night guy on a cup contender? I don't think so. And I've been really, and again, this is, and again, I know I'm gonna be people are gonna get mad at me again, but like I've been really positive on Jake Middleton this year. So, again, that's just my honest assessment.
I'm a sell high on Jake Middleton guy myself. If you can extract,
I think if someone knocks and blows your socks off, like definitely take him. I just look at Jake Middleton and I go, is he an every night guy on a Stanley Cup contender? I don't think so. But he's a guy that you could rotate in and out.
Fourth or fifth round pick, from a team.
I don't hate that.
Yeah,
like I don't hate that, right?
We got some more from Hertl coming in. I should do a better job and not show so much emotion. It's tough when the game is close and you just kind of lose it. That's on Hertl at the very end of the game. Here's some more. We know we have to put more shots on net, not be so fancy, be hard around the net, and work for rebounds. We've got
not wrong. I mean, again, like the problem with the Sharks offense has been a lack of offensive pressure. So it is getting shots, but yeah, definitely getting those second and third opportunities because those just weren't coming. It was one and done and back the other way.
We've got the last 2 years haven't been easy for us. We play good hockey, but then we have so many injuries, COVID. It's good to show that we can beat good teams. That's from Hertl. Carlson says, I thought I was decent, not great, not terrible. Everything feels fine. We've got, there was a similar play earlier, and I told Barabanov, just go there, and if I see, I'll hit you. That shorthanded goal was a bit of a clusterfuck. Sometimes it happens. Nice to see Erik Karlsson's expletives coming out there. We when we do things, we're good at it. We're a good team. When we create more 5-on-5, we don't have the margins other teams do. That's from Erik Karlsson. And I think again, it's good to see the team. Right. Yeah, it's good to see the team finally get over the 20s for the shots. Tonight they get 30 shots on goal. LA gets 36, but I mean that in itself is a moral victory.
Right? Like 36 shots. Like again. Like, that's a lot of shots. Like, Sawchenko got shelled tonight. And after, again, and overall was good.
Yeah. Just a little bit more because we were talking on the trade deadline. Per Shang, half the league had scouts scheduled to be in tonight.
Not shocking.
Yeah, Anaheim, Calgary, Chicago, Colorado, Minnesota, Montreal, New Jersey, New York, Ottawa, Seattle, St. Louis, Toronto, Vancouver, Vegas, Washington, and Winnipeg. Thank you, Big Bird, for checking us out, and thank you for coming on. We appreciate it, dude. Friedman, about a team. Okay. So this is from Ricky, and I think this is good.
Okay.
What do you guys think of Friedman and Chris Johnson talking about this being a buyer's market? Most teams aren't willing to part with firsts, and you don't have the cap room anyways. Well, I think that's one thing that the Sharks can weaponize is they do have some cap room. And I think, if they can make a move where they take on some dead space, and maybe get some kind of compensation out of that.
I feel like that
brokerage, being a broker.
I feel like we say this every year though, that it's a buyer's market. But I mean, if you're a GM and you're GMing, like if you're a GM and you're a little bit on the hot seat,
you're a GM and you're GMing.
Yeah, if you're GMing and you're a little bit on the hot seat and you don't pull the trigger, like let's say Hertl becomes villain, you don't pull it, like you can make it work and don't pull the trigger, like that's just as dangerous as anything else, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, like I feel like we say this every year, but there's always GMs that get desperate at the last minute, especially if their team starts to slide around. Like I think if you're a team like an Edmonton or a Toronto, like you're probably looking for goalie help.
Yeah.
And that could make or break like your whole playoff run. Are you gonna just be like, nah, you know what? It's my market, and you're not gonna give me the price that I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the organization has traditionally been very conservative, and I think it's always been very it's a team that has always overvalued its own commodities that it has.
For sure.
So, I suspect it's going to be kind of quiet for the Sharks at the deadline, to be quite honest with you. I mean, maybe you might see Joe Will ship out, like a Jake Middleton here, or I don't know who else on the team would you really try and part ways with at this point. I mean, Hertl, of course, Barabanov, but those guys are, again, special cases. I mean, Barabanov, I don't know where he's at in the organization and what he is going forward, but again, if you
I would trade Barabanov. Like, I think if somebody comes and offers you a decent pick or a decent prospect for Barabanov, I think you jump on it. Barabanov, I like Barabanov a lot, right? And he's not old, but he's not young, right?
Right.
Like, he's like, I don't think you. It's not like obviously Hertl, like, you have to get a good return, right? I don't feel that way about Barabanov.
Okay.
Like, you should still get a good return, but like, it's not going to be like in that stratosphere of return. Yeah. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Right. So I still think if someone knocks on your door and gives you like a decent prospect or a decent pick, like, I'd probably consider it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like a Pittsburgh or a Toronto, coming, over and saying, hey, we'll give you this, third or fourth round pick for this player, to help make him a run. I think you definitely make those kinds of no-brainer kinds of moves, and I think, again, with Hertl, it's very different kind of circumstance because it's all going to depend on what he's going to do, right? And
right, yeah,
and
absolutely.
At this point, I mean, everything that I've heard is it's all quiet from.
Well, I heard they're not even taking calls on him yet because they're trying to get pen to paper. And if they don't, then they probably start taking calls on him. But like, they've got to figure, like, Hertl's got to put pen to paper soon, or at least put an intention to put pen to paper soon, because otherwise, like, if they're not taking calls at least a week before the trade deadline, if that pen's not to paper, then they're doing this franchise a disservice at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge advocate of Hertl must go, but you can't walk this guy to free agency with no, like, you can't walk him to free agency. If he's going to free agency, you gotta trade him.
Well, I mean, it's the nightmare scenario a la John Tavares for New York Islanders. So, we'll see what ends up happening. And again, it's all going to be up on Hertl, and it's 11 days. Brody Brazil just putting out a video this afternoon. 11 days till the trade deadline, and again, I think we'd like
pen
to
paper.
see.
It's got to, like, if there's no pen to paper by Tuesday,
exactly,
it's time to start talking trade.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it seems like that's pretty much it for tonight, and kind of what I really wanted to kind of go over. We can go over the rest of the evening's action, Ian. But was there anything else that you wanted to kind of put the bow on tonight's game, and kind of where the team is at?
No, I mean, I think the team's fine, right? Like, it is where it is. I don't think that this is the turning point where everything goes right again. I think, like I said, when the Sharks do good, it's good. I'm never going to get mad at the Sharks winning a game. I'm never going to come on here and scream about the Sharks winning. Like, that's just never going to happen. I understand that, obviously, with some of the bottom feeders starting to go on a run, you don't want the Sharks to go on a run to match it. I understand that completely. But I'm not, like I said, I still watch this team every game. I don't want to watch them lose. Like, no one wants, like I said, like, yeah, high draft picks are great at the draft when you step up to the podium and draft that, that guy that gets you all warm and fuzzy for the future. But it's pain to get there. No one wants, like, no one. Okay, some people are, and they're weird, but most people don't want to be in pain all the time.
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I'm not going to get mad when they win. I still want to watch a game. I still want to be entertained. I still want them to, even, look they're going to lose games, right? If I just don't want to, I don't want to watch a repeat of the last game.
Yeah.
Right? No one wants to watch that.
Yeah, and I think for me, I want to see positive direction. I want to see creativity. I want to see young players playing.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? And that is the one thing that I think I'd like to see more is John Leonard's been on hell of a roll. Why not bring him up?
Exactly.
Why not put him on the line? I don't understand this, Dzingel sits tonight. Why? So Gadjevich can play?
Yeah.
Because
I feel
because then the people would be like, oh, well, you need those guys because those guys are in the lineup. No one gets hurt. Oh, well, Viel and Gadjevich were both in the lineup when Ferrara went down on a brutal hit. Gee, why didn't that prevent that from happening? I thought that was the code. Oh, the code's not real. Okay, good.
Yeah. Not to mention, it being a little bit different when it's a superstar, laying the hit. So, look, I mean, I think we can talk about blue in the face with the face smashers, but honestly, you need to start evaluating talent for not just this rest of this season, but for next season. Is Dzingel a guy you can use for a third line center in the next 2 to 3 years?
Dzingel was a fine pickup, right? If they don't bring Dzingel back, I'm not hurt. Who knows? Maybe even Dzingel's a guy who might draw some interest at the trade deadline. Maybe not. You're not gonna get blown off the doors for him. But if he's not in your future plans at all, if you're not planning on bringing him back, then a 4th round pick is still better than nothing.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, I agree. That's the one thing though, is I think that's the one thing you can get mad at is too many guys from the guy factory.
Yeah. Exactly. I think if you can maximize return on a guy like him, or a guy like Barabanov, or a guy like Jake Middleton, or a Jacob Magna, or any of those kinds of players, I think those are definitely assets that you should recoup. More chance at the roulette wheel, so to speak. But let's go ahead and run through tonight's action. The Bruins beat the Blackhawks 4-3. The Sabres beat the Golden Knights with the return of Jack Eichel playing against his former team. Kind of interesting to see the Sabres kind of rallying there and beating the Golden Knights. And if you look over in Golden Knight land, it's the world is on fire and everything's not okay right now. So
I mean, it hasn't been I think if you're a Golden Knights fan, this season probably wasn't what you had envisioned going in. This team is, and again, injuries are definitely a factor, but this team has not been nearly as good as they should be. I mean, this is a team that, with all the pieces that's accumulated and all the cap stupidity, this is a team that should be a legit Stanley Cup contender.
It should be Colorado Pacific, basically.
This is a, to me, this is a 2-and-done team.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if the Golden Knights get through round 2.
That being said, a team forecasted to do well, the Maple Leafs end up losing to the Desert Dogs 5-4 in overtime. Jacob Chikrin with the overtime goal, upping his trade value on the market. Will be interested to see where he is going to go.
After that I watched that overtime because anytime I was whatever, I'll watch something, and then I saw that they're in overtime, so I watched it. Austin Matthews was really mad because Jacob Chikrin kind of mugged him in neutral ice, and then went on to score the goal when he probably should have been skating to the box instead. But NHL refs, y'all.
The Senators beat the Kraken 4-3. The Red Wings losing in the shootout to the Wild 6-5. A lot of high-scoring games this evening. Panthers beating the Flyers 6-3. Carter Hart losing that. I think Ian's hair is starting to become safer and safer as the days go by.
Oh, it's fine. Like, if you think Martin Jones is going to pitch like 17 shutouts before the end of the season, great. He's not.
The Jets beat the Devils 2-1. The Hurricanes beat the Avalanche 2-0 in maybe a Stanley Cup preview, but very, very tightly contested game. Good game. But yeah, very interesting to see that one. The Islanders beat the Blue Jackets 6-0.
Oh my God.
The Blues beating the Rangers 6-2. Predators beating the Ducks 4-1. Flames beating the Lightning 4-1. And of course, the Sharks prevailing in overtime against the Kings 4-3. Ian, I'm going to wrap it up for the evening. If there is anything you kind of want to last thoughts, where the people can find you, what you're doing these days.
Doing as little as possible. You can find me on Twitter at Ian Blogs Hockey. Come and yell at me there and tell me how bad all my takes are. I can take it. I'm a big boy.
Well, we can have the Zach Sawchenko debate sometime in the Discord.
Like, you said he let in bad goals, but then said he did great. You're an asshole. Yeah, I am. You're right. That's fine.
As far as I am concerned, my name is Erik Landi. That's ErikLandi. You can catch me on all the social media garbage. And in case you missed us, check us out across all of the social media and podcasting platforms, that being the Apple Podcast, Google Play Store, YouTube Rewind, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and of course all of that and more on tealtownusa.com. So let's see if I can get this right. Keep it real. Keep it teal. Keep it real, Teal. Thank you, everybody.